Ever since the Nintendo Switch was revealed in October, my excitement for it has barely been containable. This past Saturday, I finally got a chance to get my hands on it at the Nintendo Switch preview tour in Chicago. Big shout out to Kate and Kelly from Golin for helping me with tickets. We have a lot to cover, but first, I'd like to talk about the Nintendo Switch itself. The most prominent aspect that I noticed, no matter what mode it's in, is that the Switch just feels good to play with. I know many people have some reservations just from seeing pictures of them because they seem to be quite small, but let me tell you, the Nintendo Switch's Joy-Con are the perfect size. They fit in your hands naturally, and it's hard to tell you're even using a controller when playing a game in tabletop mode. That's how comfortable they are. My only complaint about the Joy-Con is the select button. Every other button feels great to press, including the separated D-pad on the left Joy-Con. However, the select or minus button is so small vertically that I had some difficulty pushing it without angling my thumb oddly. Thankfully, I can't think of a single game that actually requires the use of the select button off the top of my head, Switch or otherwise, so you won't be noticing it that much. Everything else on the Joy-Con feels great to push and requires little effort to do so. The Joy-Con wouldn't be my first choice to play Pokken with, but I wouldn't be upset if I had to use them, unlike the Wii U gamepad. Speaking of which, playing the Switch in handheld mode is somehow way more comfortable. For a full system, the Nintendo Switch is incredibly light in your hands. My biggest concern about the Switch was that, as an entire console crammed into a small tablet, it would be ridiculously heavy, but that is not the case at all. I played Splatoon 2 and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe in handheld mode, and the only time I noticed the Switch in my hands was when I was using gyro controls in Splatoon. The Switch is just as easy, if not easier, to maneuver with over the Wii U gamepad, so Splatoon players can rest easy. While it's easy to get hung up over whether the Switch feels good in my hands or not, I'm forgetting another pretty important sense when it comes to video games: sight. When I first picked up the Switch to play Splatoon 2, I was floored. This thing is beautiful. As an avid 3DS and DS player, I seriously couldn't believe that what I was holding was a new Nintendo system. The 3DS's screen is frankly pretty bad. There are people who have managed to render DS and 3DS games in a serviceable resolution, and they look completely different. Even my Vita's screen resolution isn't that great, but I am thrilled to say that the Nintendo Switch makes no compromises. When you pick up the Switch for the first time, you will be amazed at the screen. It does justice to the Switch's incredible graphical capabilities, and it's just the right size. The Nintendo Switch itself was quite a bit smaller than I thought it would be, but I quickly realized it's the perfect size. Some people, me included, were afraid it would be too small to play multiplayer games in tabletop mode with, which is exactly why Nintendo was demoing Snipperclips exclusively in tabletop mode. When I sat down with my friend to play Snipperclips with him, all of my worries instantly melted away. It's hard to overstate just how stunning the Switch's screen is, and in tabletop mode, it really shined. We were able to comfortably play together a good distance from the screen, while still being able to perfectly make out all of the details on the screen. This just wouldn't be possible on the 3DS or Wii U gamepad. One of my favorite parts of the preview tour was a station that they had with the rechargeable grip, a docked Nintendo Switch, and the Joy-Con wrist straps. There was no game running, so I was free to explore the Switch and its peripherals as I wished. I must have detached and reattached the Joy-Con dozens of times, and it never got old. It's a little tricky to get a hold of at first. There's a little button on the back of each Joy-Con that you press in order to be able to detach them, and pressing it puts your hand in the perfectly comfortable position to do so. Then, you just lift the Joy-Con out of the console or grip to detach it. Reattaching the Joy-Con is a little trickier, since you need to align the Joy-Con's rail with the system's, but you'll quickly get good at it after a few times. The Switch at this demo station was displaying a picture of the Nintendo Switch logo on TV. I was able to undock the Switch, which is an incredibly smooth process of just sliding it out of the dock, and see how fast the picture transfer was. It's instantaneous. I was very impressed with how fast this was. I at least expected a little delay. Docking the Switch has a small amount of delay when transferring the picture to the TV, but this is only due to hardware limitations of a TV itself. The actual Switch system is doing the best it can to get that picture up as fast as possible. The Pro Controller was available for use at a few demo stations, so I made sure to use it when trying out Puyo Puyo Tetris. It feels really, really good. Although the Joy-Con's buttons are a little mushy at times, the Pro Controller is satisfyingly clicky without requiring too much actuation pressure. The triggers and shoulder buttons feel fantastic and have little travel time, which is great news. The triggers are in a unique scallop shape that I've never seen used for a trigger before, but it works. They aren't too big or cumbersome, they're just there. And this seems to be a recurring theme throughout the Switch's design. Nintendo's designers did a fantastic job making the Nintendo Switch's controllers entirely unobtrusive. They've hinted at being interested in doing VR, and this certainly shows it. Using a Joy-Con in virtual reality would do nothing to impact the immersion. It's just difficult to tell that it's there at all. Of course, I can't talk about the Pro Controller without mentioning the D-pad. I'm sure any Nintendo fan out there is a big fan of their directional pad, and if you're like me, you're sad to see it leave the Joy-Con. The Joy-Con's button D-pad is serviceable, and a necessary evil for the symmetrical controller designs, but the Pro Controller's D-pad is the true winner here. It's significantly less mushy than the Wii U gamepads, while also being less difficult to press than the 3DS's. It's the perfect balance. Plus, that retro translucent plastic on the top is a very nice touch. Altogether, the Nintendo Switch Pro Controller is an amazing controller. Is it $70 amazing though? Honestly, yeah. It's pretty difficult to recommend spending more than the price of a game at a console's launch when you'll be wanting to get as many games as you can get your hands on, but if you have the cash, the Pro Controller is certainly worth it. If you don't though, don't stress out too much. The Joy-Con themselves feel amazing, and all you have to do is slide them into the included free grip for a comfortable at-home experience. The Pro Controller is, ultimately, a luxury item. A little better, a little cooler, a little pricey, and ultimately, a little unnecessary for most gamers. Now that we've covered the hardware, let's talk about the games. As soon as I got into the event venue, I rushed in line to play ARMS. When I saw the trailer, I knew I had to play it, so I made sure it was the first game I demoed. My friend played as Ribbon Girl, while I played as Ninjara. They're both pretty powerful characters, but it's tough to talk about balance before the game actually launches, so I'll just cover the actual play experience. The demo starts out with a short tutorial that teaches you the controls, and it's super easy to get a hang of. You can only play with motion controls in the demo. They were quite responsive. My only complaint with them is that the blocking was really unresponsive, unlike the rest of the controls. Unresponsive blocking in a fighting game is obviously a huge issue. Everything else was quite instant though. However, I will absolutely be playing with traditional controls that will thankfully be available in the final version of ARMS. Competitive players, rest easy. Motion controls are not required to play ARMS. Speaking of competitive play, ARMS seems to have a ton of depth to it. It controls very well, and the customization supplies enough depth and metagaming without overcomplicating things. The existing characters all have unique aspects that make them quite different, but no mechanic makes the game's controls too wildly different. Ninjara's disappearance move makes him play with a completely different mindset compared to someone like Springman, but all you have to do is press L and R at the same time to disappear. People are sleeping on ARMS, I think. It's a game made by a young team at Nintendo with a combination of flashy characters, unique graphical style, and a creative, accessible spin on a competitive genre with deep depth that hardcore fans can appreciate. It's exactly what led to Splatoon's success, and I can't wait to see what Nintendo has in store for ARMS when it releases on May 3rd, according to a representative at the event. After playing ARMS, I rushed over to the Splatoon 2 station to play the sequel to one of my favorite and most played Wii U games. I, obviously, as an avid player of the original Splatoon, had to choose the new weapon type, the Splat Dualies. As soon as the match started, I was immediately back into it. They had us playing on the Nintendo Switch in handheld mode, and it felt just like Splatoon. This was pretty shocking to me. Splatoon 2 in handheld mode doesn't feel like a mobile Splatoon like Mario Kart 7 might on the 3DS. It's just Splatoon in your hands. No compromises are taken. This is the full console Splatoon experience, but available on the go now. The Switch's gyro works perfectly, providing top precision on aiming just as the Wii U gamepads did. The map is now available on the Y button, which works perfectly. It's not entirely opaque, so you can still move and see while checking it with the Y button, but stopping to check your map still leaves you vulnerable. It's a good trade-off since you're pressing a button while playing, so it's still a little difficult to actually maneuver. Meanwhile, the dualies themselves aren't quite as overpowered as they seem in the trailers. The trailers don't really show the focus stance, which triggers after a dodge roll, ending, but the stance doesn't actually last that long. It's only around half a second or so, then you're back to walking again. If you want to stay focused, you need to keep rolling by pressing the jump button while shooting, and to keep rolling, you need ink. You can usually only dodge roll around 3 times before running out of ink, so although the dualies are quite powerful in the right hands, they aren't going to be game-breaking. Splatoon 2 seems to be bringing a fresh start to a fresh new system, while keeping things familiar enough to allow existing fans to feel right at home. As a huge Splatoon fan, I'll definitely be picking it up day one, and I can't wait to see what other new additions the Squid Research Labs have in store. Everyone will be able to play the demo I played online during the free global test fire from March 24th to 26th, so look out for that next month. I'll be doing a stream of it, so hopefully you guys can join me online. I'm not sure if they'll allow us to queue up together, but if they do, then we'll definitely do that. Once my time with Splatoon 2 was unfortunately finished, I went over to the Snipperclips table to try out Nintendo's new multiplayer title. That's right, it was a table. To demo Nintendo Switch's tabletop mode in multiplayer, Snipperclips was only playable in it. I was seated right next to my friend, got a Joy-Con, and started playing. As I mentioned earlier, the Switch's beautiful, high-resolution screen made playing multiplayer in tabletop mode easy and fun, unlike trying to show someone a game on my 3DS. In Snipperclips, you team up with a friend to solve puzzles together. The twist is that your characters are paper, so if you overlap your character with the other person's, you can press a button to cut their body. Using this mechanic requires you to coordinate with your friend to cut each other properly. Cutting yourselves into different shapes is, of course, essential to solving the puzzles the game presents you with. From scooping up a ball to popping balloons with a sharp tip, different shapes and sizes are required for each level. It was a timed demo, so we didn't get to see too much, but what we did see assured me that it would be worth the $20 when it releases on the eShop. It's great to see Nintendo supporting the eShop with an exclusive release right out of the gate. Even single players don't need to worry. While I forgot to ask a representative about it, Nintendo's official website claims that you can play the game with a friend or by yourself. So even if you don't have anyone to play it with, you can still enjoy Snipperclips when it releases this March. My time with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was surprisingly long considering that I played that game to death on Wii U. It felt fantastic when I played a normal race in handheld mode with the new Inkling girl, but I don't have much else to say about it. Nothing looked too visually enhanced or anything. It's Mario Kart 8, but on the Switch now. Nothing crazy, but I love the original, so I will still probably pick it up. I later played it in TV mode when I checked out the new battle mode. If I'm being honest, I've never been a huge Mario Kart battle mode fan, so 8's bad one didn't bother me too much. I was able to play the Bob-omb Blast mode in the new Luigi's Mansion arena while playing as King Boo, which was pretty awesome. I love that they've made a bunch of new arenas for the new battle mode, but I just didn't enjoy Bob-omb Blast all that much. It felt awkward to try and maneuver around the course and aim my bob-ombs at people. If you like battle mode, you'll probably love all the effort Nintendo put into the new one, but I'm not too thrilled about it just because I'm not a battle mode kind of guy. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is still a must-buy for me thanks to being one of my favorite Wii U titles, but on the go now. If you didn't check it out on Wii U, you certainly need to get the new definitive version. If you've already played the Wii U version though, whether you should get Deluxe or not all depends on how much you value the new characters, battle mode, and portability. After playing Mario Kart 8, I played the 1-2 Switch demo with a friend of mine. They put us inside transparent booths to muffle the outside sound a bit and make the experience a bit more personal, which I certainly appreciated. Unfortunately, the game's big seller game, Sneaky Dice, was unavailable to play. We could only play a set string of 3 games: Ball Count, Milk, and Quick Draw. The first game, Ball Count, has each player pretend their Joy-Con is a wooden box with metal balls in it. Both players have the same amount of balls in their Joy-Con, and they compete to accurately guess how many are inside. Since you can't actually see anything, you need to tilt and shake your Joy-Con to use the HD rumble to sense the balls inside. It's an absolutely wild experience that you need to have yourself in order to fully understand it. Koizumi's Ice Cube demonstration was not an exaggeration. There were 5 metal balls in my Joy-Con, and I could feel all of them roll and bounce around. HD Rumble is a literal game changer. The potential that Ball Count showcases for the precision of HD Rumble makes me excited for what other games await in 1-2 Switch and what other Rumble awaits in other games. Throw out all of your preconceived notions about the Rumble functions and controllers, because HD Rumble's degree of precision gives it a purpose that exceeds simple feedback. It makes touch a valid sense to incorporate into gameplay. The second game, Milk, is one I was psyched to play after seeing it demoed on Treehouse Live. I had seen so much of it that I instantly got the hang of it. Players press the top shoulder button of the Joy-Con followed by the bottom one, as they bring their hands downward in a motion similar to milking a cow. During the game's short round, they compete to milk as much as possible from their cow. HD Rumble provides feedback to show you how well you're doing, with better milking making the Joy-Con feel like it's gushing more milk out of it. I won by a landslide, so I experienced a lot of rumble at its highest milk output. It felt really cool. I sort of lack the experience to say that it felt like I was actually milking a cow, but it certainly felt like something was rushing through my hand. Finally, we played Quick Draw. This has been the game I've been describing to hook all of my friends who won't sit down and listen to me talk about how amazing Sneaky Dice is for an hour. I'll say, you whip out your controller and fire, like a real-life version of that Kirby Superstar game. I was fully prepared to play it myself, or so I thought. When my time finally came, I was way faster than my friend. Unfortunately, I was a little too fast. After the voice in the Nintendo Switch said, "Fire!" and I brought my Joy-Con up from my waist, my index finger slipped and hit the trigger too early. You only get one bullet, so I lost by default. The line was so long to play the 1-2 Switch demo that I wasn't able to get a rematch, but Quick Draw is a game I look forward to picking up and playing a few rounds of whenever the mood strikes. I got a chance to try out a couple other games, but this video is already pretty long, and none of them showcased any part of the Nintendo Switch particularly well. Despite this, Super Bomberman R, Sonic Mania, and Puyo Puyo Tetris are all games that I greatly enjoyed and will certainly be picking up. Hopefully this video gives you a better idea of what picking up and playing the Nintendo Switch and its peripherals is like. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me in the comments. I always read them all. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, then show me by leaving a like and subscribing for more Nintendo Switch content. If you're as excited as I am about the Nintendo Switch, let me know in the comments, what game are you anticipating the most? You can also find me on Twitter for updates and Twitch for live streams, though I stream on both Twitch and YouTube now. As soon as the Nintendo Switch launches, I'll be doing an 8-player Super Bomberman R stream where I play online with 7 of you guys, so come on by March 3rd if you're interested in playing that with me.